My name's Mark English and I'm the head of media here at the European Commission's office in London.
So Mark, it'd be interesting if you could tell us a little bit about the impact of the European Union on London and ordinary Londoners.
Well, I'd look at three policy areas in particular. First of all, there's the single market, and London is a trading city, and the single market means that London can trade without red tape and without barriers with the rest of the European Union. And this brings in a great deal of money and creates a lot of jobs in London. The CBI estimates that UK-wide the single market is worth £78 billion every year to the UK's economy, and a very large part of that will go to London. That's one reason why the city is so enthusiastic, and why, for example, the members of the City UK are 85% in favour of the UK remaining a member. You can also look at other areas. Employment legislation, for example. There's anti-discrimination legislation at EU level which protects Londoners. There are limits on working hours which protect Londoners. There's statutory EU level provision on maternity leave, on holidays, 4 weeks minimum paid holiday. That helps Londoners directly, and it also means that other cities in the EU can't undercut London by not giving those rights to their workers. So it's a double benefit to London. The European Social Fund, £410 million from that went into London between 2007 and 2013, and that particularly looks at providing opportunities for those who might not get them otherwise, and also at improving the local economy in ways that benefit everybody. A couple of examples. There's a scheme called Enable to Grow, which is about disabled business leaders and helping to boost their businesses and to create jobs in those businesses. A substantial amount of money from the European Social Fund went to that, I think 700 million if I remember rightly.
Could you tell us about the Green Fund, Mark?
Well, the Green Fund is a collaboration between the Mayor's Office, the GLA, the European Commission and others. It's a total of £100 million in funding, half of which is European Union funding, and that goes into areas like energy efficient social housing, schools and hospitals. Of course, energy efficient social housing is not just about climate change, it also reduces bills for the occupants of that housing. And also a large amount of money from that fund goes into improving waste disposal.
Tell us, Mark, about the impact of the EU on equal opportunities in London.
Well, there are two sorts of impact. First of all, there is anti-discrimination legislation at EU level on issues like gender, race, all sorts of issues. But secondly, there are many projects on the ground that advance equal opportunities. One is the New Pathways to Work initiative in West London. That gets £1 million of EU funding, and that's about helping severely disadvantaged people into work. They might be disabled people, people with physical or mental disabilities, or just people who've suffered from serious social disadvantage. So equal opportunities is about making sure the laws are there, but also about practical help. And certainly EU funding contributes to that, along with many other sources of funding, of course, in London.
Tell us, Mark, about the impact of EU policy on migration.
Well, London is very much a city of migration and a city of migrants, and it's been so for centuries, certainly long before the EU existed. And many would see it as one of the great strengths of London, of its economy, and also the diversity being a strength of London society over a very long period. Clearly, at the moment, this is a very hot issue, and there's no doubt at all that it's an issue that needs debating and discussing, and that's happening a lot. It's happening in Brussels, it's happening in London, it's happening all over Europe. No doubt at all, and the Commission has acknowledged this many times, that influxes of migrants into particular local areas can put pressure on health services, it can put pressure on schools, but on the other hand, it can also help to pay for those health services and schools, because migrants, especially EU migrants in London, tend to be younger. They call less upon the National Health Service and they pay into it through their taxes. So they're also financing pensions for older people. So certainly there are issues and challenges that come with migration. There are also advantages that come out of it. I think it's very important also to understand three things. First of all, migration works both ways. There are, according to the UK government, up to 2.2 million UK citizens living elsewhere in Europe. And if you're going to restrict free movement, you're presumably going to restrict free movement for them too. And there are also a couple of myths that I think it's important to tackle. The first is that a migrant coming to London or anywhere else in the UK means one less job for a British person. And this simply isn't true, because migrants also come in, earn money, pay taxes, spend money, They buy things, they create demand. So it's not the case that there are a set number of jobs and that migrants are depriving British people of those jobs. And the other thing that I'd just like to tackle is this idea that somehow someone can come from the European Union to London or any other city in the UK without a job and immediately start claiming unemployment benefits. This simply isn't the case, and it's never been the case, and yet it's something that appears to have become widely believed. So I think it's very important to say that that is not something certainly that is required by EU rules, which put quite stringent limits on who can claim benefits when they're not any longer living in their own member state of origin.
Many people complain about Brussels and red tape and that it interferes in domestic policy. What would you say to that?
What the European Union aims to do, and usually succeeds, is to replace 28 rules, which are different all over the European Union in 28 countries, with one rule. That it is simply not logical to suggest that without the European Union, somehow red tape would all go away and there wouldn't be any problems.